Hi everyone, and welcome to the continuing series of videos that relate to the child protection system and what we should do under certain circumstances. What I'm going to talk about today, which may be all that brief, and some of you will wonder why we're talking about this, but it keeps cropping up as a continuing issue, and that is the number of people that I've worked with over the years who have simply contacted the department because they believed there was an issue within their family or with their children or with their partner that they thought the child protection department should be able to handle for them or with them. Most of these people, in fact everyone that I can think of, who has contacted the Child Protection Department for help has often found that their children were removed. I had a conversation with somebody earlier today where this issue was raised again. She had a problem with her teenage daughter who was behaving badly, went to the department and asked them for help, and was labelled a bad parent, and consequently her child was removed from her care. Now this happens a lot, primarily because the department is not established to be able to work with you. So remember that. They do not work with you. If you go to them seeking help with your child or anything that's happening in your life, they will do what they can to label you, to categorize you, place you in a box and suggest that you are simply a bad parent. I believe the department should be there to be able to help parents. After all, they are supposed to be the experts in protecting and caring for children, but we know that they're not. And parents are often surprised, I think, to find that the department has chosen to take their child away from them when they have gone to the department to seek help so they could better care for, look after, nurture, do whatever they needed to do to improve that child's well-being. Surely one would think that that was a reasonable reason to go to a government department seeking help, and that would by itself suggest that the parent was wanting to take care of their child appropriately. But no, because the issue for me is that the workers in the department always think that they are going to be the better parent. And if they notice that there's some sign of discontent within that family, then they will jump in thinking that they could do a better job than what the parent is doing, even though the parent has come to them for help. There are other services around, and this is where it becomes a wee bit tricky, I think. There are other services out there who are designed to work with families, and there are some services where they will actually look at families that are at risk. But once you become under the surveillance of a government system, there's a chance, once you do that, that your child will be removed from you. The best way to deal with issues in relating to kids and to seek the help that you can is to go to an independent person, such as a psychologist or a social worker that works with children or does therapy. Going to a government department will simply mean that others within the government arena will find ways to investigate you. You become the problem. Not the fact that you have a child that might be problematic, but that you yourself, your parenting, the person that you are, becomes the significant problem. Always find other ways to help you deal with issues in relation to your kids. Never ever go to the department for for that particular help. There are too many cases out there, and I'm sure there'll be people watching this video now who will understand the implications and the consequences of going to a department for help. We know that the degree of help that they offer families when the department does become involved in their life is extremely limited. That the services that the department would suggest that you take, like parenting courses, like anger management courses, domestic violence courses, and so on, that those courses are generally available to the public, but not always. Sometimes a referral is required. Find a social worker or a psychologist who can refer you to appropriate services. Be careful about how you talk about your parenting. Like parents will go to the department, I think, and they'll say, I'm just not coping. Well, once you say that you're not coping to the department, they'll say, well, you're a crappy parent and you probably shouldn't be parenting in the first place. They forget that they're the worst parent on this planet, but they will want to label you. And the first thing they think of is, well, I need to protect this kid because this parent isn't coping. The other one is that when you go to, so there's two others basically. So if you go to the department and you say you're in a violent and abusive relationship, and that you're recognizing the harm and the damage that this is doing to your child, and you want to protect everybody, then the department will automatically think that you're a crappy parent because you're in this relationship in the first place. The other one, of course, is mental health. So if you go to the department and you tell them that you're suffering from some mental health problem, you've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder or some sort of personality disorder or whatever it might be, or just with anxiety and stress, immediately the response is that I want to label you. So you are being labelled as a bad parent, an inadequate parent, a parent that clearly is not coping with what's happening with you and your child. Immediately that happens. From the moment you step inside a government department and declare that you are struggling as a parent, you are likely to have your child removed from you. The reality is that from time to time, all of us parents struggle with our kids. None of us is the perfect parent. And that sometimes we need to work through those problems with kids, particularly when they appear to be out of control. The woman I was speaking to today was talking about a child that was being groomed online and was very aware of what was happening to her in relation to her use of social media. And she tried to put a stop to that, and the kid balked and became extremely angry, and I think became violent. So when you reach those extreme levels and you do not know what to do, seek private help for that, someone independent of the department. Because at least if you've done that, and even if the department become aware of it later, you can actually demonstrate that you've actually done the work prior to actually involving the department. The department do not have a magic wand, no one does, that can rectify the problems that's happening with kids. But I do need to say this, that as parents, to some extent, we need to be responsible for the way our children are behaving. I know that's really difficult for a lot of parents to swallow because there are lots of other influences that impact kids. There's social media, there's their peers, there's those people they hang around with at school and so on, and there's a whole lot of influences out there over which a parent has not got any control. But the reality is that if we've been able to instill in our kids some understandings about how they should interact with their world, then perhaps they won't interact in ways which are harmful to them. Also, I think it's important to understand what it is that may be affecting a child that are causing the issues that sit within their lives. So for those parents, for example, who are separated and divorced, for those parents who have been in domestic violence relationships, and those parents that have got mental well-being issues, sometimes we need to look at how all of those issues have impacted the child. What have we done to rectify that? And what conversations have we been able to have with our kids that have been able to clarify what's happening for them in relation to what happened to us? Look, as I said, none of us parent correctly all the time. Most of us struggle, and certainly most of us don't understand what's happening for us, let alone what's happening for our kids. But somewhere along the line, we need to take a look introspectively to see what was happening for us. That, as we go through life, we take on different stages. There are different things that are happening. There are people that are impacting us in ways which are helpful sometimes and unhelpful in others. And the kids are a part of whatever that life is that we have experienced. And they respond to that. And our understandings of that will help us to take responsibility for the impact that we may have had on our children. And sometimes I think just being aware of that is enough to at least understand the issues that a child might have and help us to work through that with the child. None of this is easy. I don't think parenting was ever meant to be easy. But really it's up to all of us to take responsibility. Seek help from friends. Have conversations with other people about what's happening to you if there are issues around your parenting and particularly the kids that you're parenting. Try and make significant changes so that the dynamics around your parenting also shift. I know that some parents just want to set some boundaries, and sometimes those boundaries are also unrealistic, and certainly kids will push it back against them. And I know that as a parent of 5 kids, sometimes we just have to let them go, which is the hardest thing for us to do. But sometimes letting them go can be a good thing, because really at the end of the day, even though we don't want them to be harmed, we do whatever we can to protect them. Sometimes they just need to learn by their mistakes. We can reflect back on all the mistakes that we've made and come to understand that we've learned, hopefully, from those. Not that everybody does, but we can hope that you have. And understand that children will also learn from theirs. In conclusion, don't go to the department if you have issues around your children. Keep away from them entirely, but do go and seek help from somewhere else. The help is out there. There are people that you can speak to that are not connected with the department. Do what you can to ensure that you can enrich your children's lives, not harm them. Thanks, everybody. Take care, look after yourselves, and be safe.